right. Welcome back, listeners, to Agile Disrupted, a podcast for the people in the trenches of Agile, where voices are heard and stories are shared. You have your host, Tabby, which is me. You have MC, and we have two guest speakers today, which I'm super excited about. We got Caitlin Zarcone, who is also a podcast speaker in the podcast Our Break Room. Thanks for joining us, Caitlin.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, so I'm also an Agilist for about 5 years. So I have a decent amount of experience. But yeah, co-founder of Our Break Room. And thanks for having me again, Tabby. Appreciate it.
No problem. Man, I'm so glad you're here. Like your chill voice to my like outrageousness, it's going to balance very well in today's episode.
I got you.
And we also have another founder with us, John Augustine, founder of agileburn.com. Thank you for joining us, John.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm John. I'm a Scrum Master for, I guess, I don't know, 6 years now, plus or minus. Yeah, I started AgileBurn.com. It's kind of like a lean startup experiment in the Agile space, and I'm trying to change the way hiring happens for Scrum Masters and product owners. So check it out, AgileBurn.com.
All right. I think we will check it out. Agile burning to the win. All right. So thank you both for joining us. I'm going to give you guys a couple mic drops, if you will, about today's topic before I get into it. So if you guys had to think about how many betrayals you've had in your life, could you come up with a number? Like think about that for a moment. Like it's really hard because our lifespans are so long, but you're not necessarily thinking about that number. You're thinking about that fresh betrayal that's in your memory. Like the last person that betrayed you, that you took like a leap of faith on, you took a chance on them and they just fucked up. And you're just thinking like, okay, what do we do now? Can this relationship be salvaged? Do we try again? Or do we just end it here? And it's not even just any personal relationship or romantic. This could be a work relationship. Like a work relationship where you took a chance on someone and now you have to work together because that other person, again, fucked up. But it's the inverse of trust, like trust and betrayal. And you think of those two contrasts. So you take that leap of faith and you're questioning and you're giving yourself a chance to take a chance on someone too. So what does that entail? You know, like isn't that the irony of trust, that you don't know if you're going to trust someone until you actually start doing it, you know? So, and then flip that. When someone else starts trusting you, that's also scary too. Like, man, I got this huge responsibility and I'm carrying this vase that someone gave me and I can't shatter this vase. Like I'm holding this vase with two hands. So think about that small concept about trust as an individual and amplify that to teams and how crucial it is with teams and like understanding that trust as an individual is such an important responsibility that when that trust isn't evident in a team, it makes it very difficult to work together. So before we get into broken trust with teams, what does trust mean to you? I'm going to ask you, Caitlin, what does trust mean to you?
Trust means honesty. It means honesty, consistency, and accountability. So for me personally, if I am trusting you with my feelings or I'm trusting you with my day to day, I'm expecting you to be honest with me of your feelings about me, and how you feel about what I'm saying to you. And if I'm saying, hey, I just saw this kid fall on the floor and I started laughing and you're like, ah ha ha, that's funny, but really you think, wow, what a crappy person. No, tell me, like, I think you're a crappy person. I'd be like, well, damn, okay, you're right. That was pretty bad of me. you know, you know.
Like I totally feel you. Like maybe like I just got shamed. Like,
Yeah,
I was sharing, like I was giving you an olive branch and you just like burned that shit to the ground.
right,
Like,
right.
maybe I
Tell
can
me.
trust you.
Exactly. Like my biggest thing is improvement. So help me improve. I'll help you improve. And it's that honesty, but it's also that consistency. So if you're honest with me one day and then the next day you lie to me, then I don't know what to expect when I come up to you. So I'm
Yeah.
already on edge. I already have that barrier saying, what is this person going to do? Because it's hard for me to trust someone if I can't really predict how they're going to react to me. So Those are like the consistency, honesty, accountability. Do some, if you're going to say you're going to do something, do it. Yes. Yes. Don't say, yeah, 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 we'll hang out, but never hang out.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Like, oh yeah, we'll do lunch like someday 10 years from now. Lies. All kinds of
Exactly.
lies. So
Exactly.
I'm with you, girl. And like you hit like a couple of elements. Like have you guys heard about Braving by Brene Brown?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Dude, braving is on point. And let me tell you why. Well, what does braving really mean? So braving is an acronym, like how we all love acronyms. So it stands for boundaries, reliability, accountability, vault, integrity, non-judgment, and generosity. So Caitlin, you hit a couple of those elements. Like you hit like reliability, like can I rely on you with this joke that like this joke I was about to share with you that was supposed to be funny but wasn't funny apparently. Can I count on you when you say like, hey, yeah, like we're gonna have lunch on this date and like I'm gonna call you. Like and then like vault. Like I just shared something personal with you. And yeah, it's kind of a shitty thing to say, but like I'm trusting you to keep it between us. Like a lot of those elements. And it ties into when you mentioned honesty. So I totally agree.
I kind of agree with Caitlin. Like, I mean, Caitlin, you mentioned predictability. I think that's key. And when I think about like what we do in the agile space, like we try to create predictability with the teams and stuff like that. Where we ask the teams to commit to something and then we try to deliver it. And I think that creates trust. It creates a sense of predictability. Or a perception of predictability with the team. And as agilists, I think that's our role to kind of create that sense of trust based on that predictability. But I think it's so true to have like if somebody says that they're going to do something, I mean that matters so much. And if they fall short, and they do it repeatedly, then there's really no trust there, and you have to kind of maybe start over and try to come up with new ways to build that trust. New ways to exemplify that you can become predictable or trustworthy. Maybe in a different kind of way.
Absolutely. I mean, John, when you mentioned about with the teams and with their predictability, that's kind of with their relationship with leadership. They're expecting a certain predictability. They're trusting the team, to get certain things done or a certain product out. And if it doesn't come out multiple times, that reliability is not there, that consistency is not there. And then that opens the door for leadership. When I say leadership, it's directors and everything along those lines, that kind of the sponsors, all that stuff. It opens the door for them to be like, okay, this bottom up thing is not working, so we're gonna go back to top down. So
Oh my God. Like I
no.
can't even say that enough. Like this bottom up thing is not working. Like what does bottom up to you mean as leadership? Like I'm just saying.
It's like,
But
excuse me, we're in a professional environment, okay?
See, but when we talk about that though, like going back to like all the acronyms and braving, like that's where reliability comes into play. And I think for me, when we talk about trust, all the other things are important, but like you can respect my boundaries once and never again, right? So to me, it's that reliability. Are you going to consistently, earn and keep my trust? Because I know for me, just like in my personal life, my trust has been shit on several times. My friends, family, whatever. So I look at it and saying, cool, I'm just going to be open and transparent with everybody. And if you shit on me, cool, we're just not gonna talk. I don't need you because I don't have time or space for the unreliable folks. Like if I'm gonna count on you, I'm gonna count on you. And if I'm not, then I'm not.
exactly. And like you're giving them a chance, right? Like and reliability isn't like, oh, I like pulled through once and like I just have your trust now, right? Like no, that's not how this works. Like reliability is like it's like Brene Brown. It's like that weight machine, that scale that you step on every morning just to see like if you're on track. And that scale, like it's gonna tell you like straight up, like hey, you've been eating too much. Like just stop. And
Right.
like it'll like it'll give you a reliable answer every time. And that's kind of the metaphor that we try to follow. And like if you think about human beings, that's very hard, right? Reliability is very hard to live up to. So we mess up sometimes, but that's where when we mess up, we talk about accountability.
Hmm.
Like you messed up and you're owning up to it and you're trying to make up for it. That's where accountability kicks in when you can't be reliable at all times. What do you think, John?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've seen situations where like teams are kind of relying on leadership to kind of say the same thing. Like, so you'll have a product owner that's kind of wanting to kind of go in one direction, and he's hoping that leadership's aligned. So he's kind of relying that leaders will kind of say the same thing that he's saying. There's some kind of alignment there. And so when that's broken, and maybe leaders are kind of, maybe they change their minds, but don't tell the product owners, or there's a disconnect in alignment, there's frustration, and then hopefully at the end of that, there's some kind of accountability. Like we use retros or whatever. So let's like kind of figure out what happened, where did this break down, and are we going to repair it? Are we feeling accountable now, where we can say this relationship or this alignment is something that we're both accountable for, and are we going to try to make it better? Or, there's situations I've seen where, sometimes leaders say, oh, I'm not accountable for, aligning with you, product owner. So that's one of the struggles that I think we face as, Scrum Masters and Agilists and all that.
Yeah, and like, how do you really respond to that? You're not accountable? Okay, well, then what am I trusting you with? So I don't trust you, right? Like, I can't hold you accountable to anything. Like, when you have like trust with someone and it's like, hey, like, I can have boundaries with you, cool. Like, I can rely on you. Like, if I need like a ride from the airport, cool, I can rely on you. But like, when I tell you certain personal things in a vault, more or less, like, I can't rely, like, I can't count on you in that regard. So that brings me to the question of, when you tell someone that you don't trust them, it's such a powerful thing to say, and it like shatters you inside. Like, what did I do wrong? Like, I like, you love me, like, we're a good team, why don't you trust me? And maybe not saying I don't trust you anymore, just kind of focusing on what element.
Exactly. And I think it comes down to telling them why, right? If you're not telling somebody, if I just come to you, I just can't trust you anymore, Tabby, see you later, that doesn't help you. That doesn't help you at all. So I got to tell you why. Like, and for me, again, it comes back to reliability. Here's where you let me down, or here's where the inconsistent nature of XYZ is leading me to not trust you anymore. And I think it's critically important when we come back to building our teams, because right, we're trying to build products and we need to be reliable and consistent in building these products. But more importantly, there is, you have all these people on the team. You don't just have a bunch of machines out there building stuff. You have people that have lives and families and stresses and fears and aspirations. And that's where, if we can, at least my philosophy and how I work with teams is, if you can build that trust amongst the individuals and get them to understand, I can trust the people on this team, that if I stand up and say, product owner, this is a bad idea, or Tabby, you fucked up my code review and I'm pissed off at you for that, and now I look bad because I worked on ticket 123 and there's a bug associated to it and everyone knows that we got to put a hotfix out. Like, I can't trust you to do these things. So we've got to build that environment of trust where someone can stand up and say, I'm not calling you out to call you out. I'm calling you out because of your actions. And that's negatively impacting like the team in totality. So kind of one of the things I tell my team all the time, teams that I'm working with, is like, we're not here to be stagnant. I'm here to cultivate an environment where you as a person can get better. You as a developer, designer, product owner, whatever role you are, you can get better at that role, at that craft. But then cohesively, right, we got to come back together and gel, and then we'll improve as a team. And if we can get two of those three, the third one like just is clockwork, right? It just comes. So that's where I see the trust is like the glue. It's the binding glue of the team.
Definitely. I think that's where really the communication comes into play. You have to be able to communicate your thoughts and your feelings in order to portray or to come across how you're feeling or what's going on. If you keep everything bottled up, you're just festering inside. If you don't give anyone a chance to earn your trust or to earn someone else's trust, at least for my teams, I make sure, like, hey, look, there's an open door policy with communication. Talk to me, good, bad, ugly, it doesn't matter. You can even say, give me feedback. I'm good with, like, just tell me, hey, this is not giving me value. I've had teams that have told me the retrospectives are not giving me value because we don't improve. And I'm like, wow, ouch. But
yes, ouch.
That's so great to tell me as a Scrum Master and Agilist. It's like, look, these retrospectives are really that key to really build that trust, to get that, other than working together and all the other ceremonies, but to feel that improvement, get those boundaries, figure out where each other are. And if I'm not giving them that value, then I'm like, I just lost their trust.
Yep.
And
Totally.
that's them telling me that. This is not giving me value. We're not doing it.
So here's what's cool. It's kind of like story time, right? So the inverse of that is, so I'm currently working with a team. I joined the team a little over a year ago, and I just copied all the ceremonies and just I became the holder of the calendar invite. And I'm like, so we retro for 15 minutes?
15 minutes.
I'm like, I don't understand.
Wizardry.
Well, yeah, right. I'm like, okay. I'm like, you know what? For me, when I'm coming into a new team, I just pick up what's there and sort of assess it and figure out what needs to change. And what was interesting is we retro for 15 minutes, and it's the same bullshit that you hear in every retro. Oh, we're great communicators. John, you really helped me this sprint. I really appreciate it. And we got everything done. And there's like no problems. The only problems are like external problems. The team is perfect.
The team is
Um,
perfect. We're fine.
Yep. So fast forward 10 months, right? We're mid pandemic, and turns out one collective amongst the team that all share the same skill set are pissed off at one person. And they're like, yeah, we've been redoing his work for 4 months. And I'm like, what the fuck? What do you mean you've been redoing his work for 4 months?
4 months.
Yeah, well, we keep giving this guy and we give him the tasks and we tell him exactly what to do. And then he asks us what to do again. And we tell him again. And then he doesn't do it right. So instead of a third time telling him what to do, we just do it for him. And I'm like, how long's this been going on? He's like, oh, like 3 or 4 months now. And we really need to do something about it. And I was like, how many retros have we had in 3 or 4 months? Well, I don't want to put him out there and make him look bad and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no. Like, this is negatively impacting the team. Like, we're under the gun to get shit done here. That slows all of us down. So it's interesting that Caitlin, you talk about the teams like, well, we're not really getting anything out of the retro. I talk to them and they're like, yeah, we love the retro. We love to talk about and celebrate. And I'm like, but you got to trust each other to talk about the negatives and turn them into positives. So it's just interesting. And I've like outright told them, like, you need to call each other out more. It can't always be sunshines and roses. But
Yep.
it's funny, the team is like incredibly successful in terms of what we've delivered and what we've saved the organization in terms of money. So it's like, it's not ideal, it's not perfect like they think it is, but
Yeah.
shit, we're saving millions of dollars. So
That's surface level. I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking about people here. And so, yeah, like by product, what we're coming out, or the product that's coming out is great, successful. We're saving a lot of money, but are the people that are doing the work happy?
Yes. Thank you.
So, and that's the main thing is that so if those people, those team members went up to you and they said this and nothing happened after that, bam, no trust, right?
Mhm.
So then they're like, okay, well, there's no point in me going up to you because you're not going to help us through this.
so I will say they brought that up, had 2 or 3 conversations in a one-on-one setting.
Hmm.
This individual, this is a common trend, and that individual is no longer on our team. They've been moved to a different team. So, and
Oh.
what I will say when we talk about building trust, what I will say is since then, the main person that was redoing the other individual's work, has gotten a lot more vocal about concerns and frustrations and things like that. Whereas before, if you asked me how to describe this guy, I'm like, he's cool as a cucumber. Nothing shakes him. And now he will jump up and say, I'm not comfortable with us doing that. We need to kick that story to the next sprint. And
That's
things like that.
awesome.
So it's a small win. Now if I could get them to retro for half an hour, maybe we can talk about something more important.
Oh, the life of a scrum master. Haggling with the team. Okay, I'll let you guys know. Like, I started a new team not too long. It's only been 3 weeks, and like, uh, I the first 2 weeks, like, we're doing a lot of discovery, right? And I hate using that word because discovery is not fine. Discovery is a way of life, people. But we're doing discovery, and I don't really get a lot of chance to facilitate because it's mostly user focused. But like when I'm trying to like engage with the team and just like kind of have like a foot in, like I'll kid you not, like the first 2 weeks I thought they fucking hated me. Like, okay, cool, my team hates me. Everything's fine. Everything's great. This is what I got to deal with for the rest of my life. Like those are the feelings that I'm going through, and it kind of brought me into the mindset of like this episode. Like Brene Brown talks about how trust is this jar of marbles, and a person's Like when a person that you trust, they have their own jar, and you put marbles in it when they do good things, right? And they have little wins with you, and those marbles that are in the jar are subjective to the person that's trusting them, right? And that marble could mean one thing to one scrum master versus another. So when like the agile watchtower tells you you need to establish trust with your team, here's a box and ship it to us when you're ready. Like it's nothing like that. Trust doesn't work like that. It's something that organically happened that only makes sense to the team. And you that same jar of marbles, it happens with people too. It's a people jar. It's not an agile jar of trust. And when you're trying to get those marbles in and you're trying to make that win with that team member, because they're not giving you the time of day, like they're just looking at you like, okay, we got it, we got another scrum master in the room, gate, like let's see how this goes. And this week, we were in the middle of a user interview, and I was with Rupert, and Rupert is this poised Englishman, and he is very much talented in AI, and I don't know what his impression is of me, but I try to be helpful. And today, we had a user interview, and he was kind of lost in the mural board. And I think you guys are all aware of how that easily that happened. Like he was royally lost. Like Rupert is like this Sean Connery of Camelot, like kind of person, and he's lost in the mirror board. So I immediately take him to the spot that he needs to showcase for the user interview, and he's like, "Oh my god, thank you so much, Tabby." And I'm like, "He just said thank you to me. Oh my god, this is a win. Oh my!" And I'm just like celebrating in my head. Like I just got a marble in this jar. So marbles. Like, what are some marbles that you guys can link to that metaphor when it comes to building trust with the team?
So so I'm going to use an example. I used to be on a team that was part of the SAFE structure, and it was more or less with leadership. So with the team, usually, okay, I'm going to give two stories real quick. So, I'm going to do the
I'm
leadership
timing
last.
you.
Yes.
No
Time out.
pressure. So one is more or less helping resolving impediment. So with one of my teams, it was more or less for as a scrum master on that team, my main role, other than being an agile coach, was to help resolve those impediments. And whenever the team would come up with a technical impediment, I was Johnny on the spot. I was like, yeah, I got you, Jira. Yes. All these other stuff. Yes. I can give you 80 access. I can give you this, that, and I'll do it quick. And so they were like, this is awesome. So I just kept on seeing these marbles like fall from the sky, in this jar. I was like, shower me in marbles, please. And so, but then they gave me a personnel issue. And I was like, oh, that's a whole different story. I wasn't as quick with this issue. Because it is a little bit more sensitive with these issues. And the questions I was asking them, I was trying to get them to be a little bit more telling me how they want to do it instead of me doing it for them, because their expectation was for me to do it for them. And I was trying to do it in a coaching way of having them figure out what the best route to do this for. I think me doing that for this particular person took some marbles away. And it was just like,
Yeah.
that's not what they expected. They wanted me to help, but in a way that they expected me to help. So Tabby, when you mentioned it's different for each person, it is very, very true. So this person was like, I want you to help me, so go for it. Other people are like, show me how I can do this. But if you do it for them, then you're also taking out marbles. So you got to know the person you're working with. So that was when I was showered in marbles, and then marbles were taken away.
Yeah, like, you don't get your marbles no more. Like you
Exactly.
get marbles are gone.
Exactly. I have a complex now. Another story I have was with leadership, and it was more or less of I felt like I was giving them marbles, but they kept taking marbles away from me, as in my trust in them. And so whenever they asked me for help, I was, yes, I'll help you out. And I did it, and I gave them good product. They're like, yes, awesome. So they would come to me, and then they keep coming to me, and then they would say, oh, you're great leadership, you're awesome help. They would come for me for issues, questions on Agile, questions on teams, and it was great. I felt so good. But every time they would say that we were leadership, they would turn around and treat us as if we're nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it would be more or less, oh yeah, you're leadership, but your suggestions, and they didn't say this outright, but it came out like this, your suggestions don't matter. So we're going to ask you for your suggestions, but it's going to go on deaf ears. So you're wasting my time. So that was kind of that back and forth as I was giving them marbles because they love that interaction and me helping them, but they kept taking marbles away from me. So long story short, I left that area because I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't trust what you are saying. And when you ask me for help, I don't want to help you anymore. And I hate that feeling, especially as an agile, especially as a scrum master. I hate that feeling where I don't want to be a servant leader. So I was like, I gotta go. All right, off my soapbox.
Now, peace. So I got a question for John. John's gonna like this one. So get ready, John. So there is a quote by Simon Sinek called "Leadership is a lifestyle." And it's such a powerful quote too. Like it's a lifestyle. It's a constant education. And that education includes trust. So John, what do you think? Like, is that a realistic like quote? Or is that like talking to the heavens? Like maybe someday.
And the various managers that I've worked with, they've always struggled with agile transformations because they're always trying to figure out like how do I find my new way of working in when I have this new agile concept or this new team that's self-managing. And so I think it's when I think about various conversations and kind of like there was an instance like when we were talking about marbles, for example, like one step in my journey is where I actually had a jar of marbles with a manager and then he poured them all out. When we talk about to me that was an integrity thing. So that I had a situation where my team wasn't doing well and there was another manager in the room and I was a product owner at the time. And my manager, manager A said, "Who's managing this team?" And then I said, "Not me, because I'm not a manager. I'm just a product owner. I'm here to kind of prioritize." Wow. And so then my manager pulled me aside after that meeting. He said, like, "No, I expected you to say that you were the manager," and stuff like that. And basically, it was a situation where, they wanted me to throw my team under the bus for what was going on, and I wouldn't do it. So that was an experience for me where, like, when I look at the braving concept, like there was all the marbles were dumped out because to me that was an integrity conflict that I just experienced. So I think it's a lifestyle in the sense that managers are always kind of trying to find out how do they kind of participate in the process, and it's not easy for them. I think when I think about agile transformations, like one transformation I went through took over like 2 years. So it's a lifestyle that has to be learned and kind of marble by marble kind of created and almost like redefined. And I think nurtured. So it's a learning journey, just like for us, like as agilists, for us, we'll learn about we'll get our CSMs and then we'll learn the techniques. But as we kind of experience what it is to become a scrum master, there's always something right in front of us that sparks our curiosity, and it's a lifestyle for us where we're always exploring. And I think it's the same thing, for leadership too. It's a lifestyle that they have to kind of commit to and kind of work on. And that lifestyle, I think, is based on learning experiences, hopefully for that manager at that point in time where he realized he screwed up and he lost my trust at that point. And I actually a couple months later, I resigned because I didn't feel like there was any going back. My jar was empty.
So no, I've been there. I've been in that same exact position where took a really really well paying job that I loved. Had never gotten paid that much before, and then I get there and things are okay, and then I asked leadership to prioritize. Like we were doing safe, so I was like, hey, I need your priorities in list rank order, and they like refused to do it. So I talked to all the different product owners in the room and all the different architects, and I was like, to everyone in the room, we knew what the priorities were. We could prioritize them, but leadership wouldn't do it. So I wrote them up on the wall. And so for day 2 of the PI planning, program increment planning, I got screamed at like 5 feet from my face.
Wow.
In the middle of the room in front of everybody. And
Classic.
this was I had started in the summer, and I left before the winter started. I was there for 5 months, 6 months maybe.
Yeah.
Because it was a moment where every marble was gone. I'm like, I can't trust you. You bring me in here to tell me what you need done, and that you've had all these problems in the past, and I tell you I am. And so, a question I wanted to ask, is how do you build trust? How do you get those marbles, from your teams? Because my really only way of doing it, or maybe two ways, but my primary way of doing it is just being honest and being
Yeah.
transparent. And I'm going to tell you up front, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to piss you off at times, and I'm going to make you uncomfortable at times because I'm going to challenge you, because I know as a human being, you can always do better, right? And we've proven for thousands of years that as human beings, we can do amazing things, right? Flight, right? Building I mean, God, look at the freaking skyscrapers over in the Middle East and stuff. You know
Going
what I
to
mean?
the moon.
We built that. Yeah. So we built that. So don't tell me you can't reach over and say, Tabby, what you're saying is pissing me off.
Oops.
You can tell someone your feelings. So that is my primary way of doing it. So question for Caitlin: how do you get marbles, from the teams that you work with?
So I do something similar. So the one thing that I see is that it is hard to be unapologetically honest. It is very hard. It is vulnerable. You're leaving yourself being vulnerable, but you're also dealing with conflict. And there's a lot of people who don't want to piss other people off.
Yep.
So what I like to do to achieve marbles is I try to set the expectations as in, hey, I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you move forward in what you guys want to do. What do you want to do? I try to put the ball in their court and have them make that decisions, trying to get them to be more, not so much as like a self-organized, yes, but also self-guiding, and saying, what are your goals? What do you want to do? Okay, I'm going to help you achieve those goals. And if they get mad or if they get a certain way, I say, are these still your goals? Is this not a way you need me to help you? Okay, let's reevaluate. How else can I help you achieve these goals? And so I try to be open with them, but also being extremely honest that I'm not here to be your enemy. I'm here to help you. And I try to remind them that every single time that it comes
Yeah.
up.
Repetition is key, man. Like it's the whole concept of I'm here to help you, or even that 50th I love you of the day with your relationships. Like, yes, you already know this information, but I'm saying it again. Like
Right.
just a friendly reminder.
Exactly. One thing, it's also normal to hear people say, I don't want your help. And hey, take a step back. They don't want your help. They have their barriers up. You have not earned enough marbles to be able to help them out what they need to do. And that's okay. That's not on you. Hey, that's an improvement item for yourself. If you really want to help that person, do the things that that person needs you to do to gain that trust.
Exactly. And like the opposite of it, like responding to that is, oh, I'm just gonna book a one-on-one because you told me you don't need my like. Well, what does that make any
Yeah.
sense? So I've seen that happen too. Like usually there's a one-on-one in the calendar after like responding poorly to being told I don't want your help. Like, oh, we need to have a deeper conversation because I don't accept that answer. Like, wrong, fellow Scrum Master. But how many times have you come into a team and like I've seen both sides of this and I've experienced both sides, but I'll tell you the side where the team throws you under the bus. And it's because there is a very toxic environment that they are in, and it is very political. It is survival of the fittest. And it doesn't even matter if you come as a competent scrum master. I had this happen to me once in an organization, and I had good relationships with everyone on the team, and we were all aligned, and we all had good expectations. But leadership had a different direction in mind, and the leader had a one-on-one with every single person on the team except me, and that was very conspicuous because I saw this private appointment on their calendar at different times, and all the team members had it. And I'm like, what is this? It's not like I'm micromanaging their calendars. I was actually booking a meeting with them, and I saw that trend, and I'm like, okay, this is weird. So I didn't think anything of it because I trusted the team. We all trusted each other. And turns out there was a day where I came into the office and everyone had a political answer to their behavior. And like political as in they're saying something to get a neutral response out of you, but not an actual response. You know what I mean? And turns out leadership was actually going through a reorg and they're going to let me go. And they wanted to get everyone's opinion about it except me.
Wow.
And whatever jar of marbles I had with that specific leader, I mean, forget the marbles that were in the jar. Like that dude just fucking like just dropped that jar, like just shattered the whole thing. There is no jar. Like it's just over. So I ended up leaving before the reorg happened. Actually, that was a really big point in my career. But I learned a lot from that because like being political in your delivery of a point isn't necessarily the best thing. It is about honesty and transparency. If my team had just told me like, hey, we're going through a reorg and I just had a talk with this person, you should probably get a heads up. Just have that talk with them. Easy as that, you know, but there is definitely other politics happening in the process. So how have you responded to that kind of situation, John, where you come into a team and it's very political and no one's being real with each other? Like, do you just like rage quit and be like, hello, I'm the wolf in the picture, talk to me please? Like, or do you just continue the politics? Like, you're gonna be political, I'm gonna be political too. Let's do this survival of the fittest.
I don't know. Like, I mean, that's tough because
Yeah.
we talked a little bit about like transparency and openness. I mean, I think that's the cure. Like when that, and that's always my fallback. Like when I don't know what to do at a given moment, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to focus on transparency, in this situation. So if I'm dealing with like a group of people and there's a bunch of politics involved, and I'm dealing with it right now. I mean, all I can do is, I mean, as a scrum master, I feel like we're obligated to create transparency in a way, but also we're obligated to do in a way that we can create improvement, but not overly disrupt. I mean, it's like we're kind of trying to create improvement, but to move things in a positive direction. And yeah, I think if you blatantly call out politics, that could probably blow up in your face. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know, like my approach, I guess, is to try to find those moments of transparency and, say, hey, look, stuff's not working. We're not communicating. There's obviously something here. But in a way too, like, I've been in the banking industry for the majority of my career. So it's like I kind of play the game in order to kind of bring things to a better place. So it's like almost you kind of have to work with the system to change the system in a way. So I try to kind of stay mindful of like what is going on politically, who the players are, and try to create relationships with them, and then introduce transparency to them, and say, look, this is what's going on here. Is there anything we can do behavior wise? And like I think MC talked about it. To me, it's all about what are the new actions that we're going to shoot for? What are the new behaviors we're going to try to adopt that hopefully can replace the politics or the pollution, I guess, that exists at that given moment.
Yeah. And a word that I was thinking about that you mentioned was moments. It's not just like events that trust is built. I mean, it can be. I don't know, like some grand gesture with John Cusack and the boombox. I don't know, but like if like people talk about like we're gonna have this meeting where we're gonna have a one-on-one. It's gonna be very formal. We're gonna have a heart to heart. We're gonna have a formal heart to heart. That makes no damn sense. Like in a one-on-one, it's very much formalized, but what Brene Brown hits on is that trust is built in very small moments. And it may be in a meeting, but from what I've experienced as a Scrum Master myself, is that trust is built between the meetings, not necessarily in them. And like sometimes it could backfire. Like you could have a side conversation with someone, actually have a heart to heart, and then that person may not trust the whole vault policy, and they share that vault policy with someone else, and then trust is ruined. But you just don't know what direction it's going to take. But a lot of intimate conversations have outside of meetings. MC, you look like you're about to say something.
Yeah, no, it was funny. So when you sent the Brene Brown, I think it was the Oprah Super Soul conversations from a couple years ago, where
Yeah.
she said that trust is built in small moments. I was like, wow.
Yes.
That was one of those like profound statements where it's like, no shit, but I never thought about it that
right?
way. because I look at it like so I've worked for some managers where I was like, man, I love this manager. I trust the shit out of this manager.
Mm-hmm.
And then something happens where I'm like, wait a second. That's not cool what you just did there.
Yep.
And it makes you think about things a little bit differently. And I know like my gut reaction was like, oh my god, this is not going to work. And
Uh-huh.
then politics. You start thinking about politics and how office politics come into play, and it's like, all right, maybe their hand was forced, whatever. But it's one of those moments where you start to realize it's these small, teeny tiny moments
Yep.
that dictate where you stand in your thoughts about somebody, and it's bizarre how the universe works. Small personal story. So my niece moved in. She's 21. She moved in with my wife and I and our kids. Yeah, a couple months ago, and it's great. But so she moved in with us a couple months ago because she's just going through a lot personally, and I'm just like, you know what? I didn't have anyone to help me when I was younger. I'm gonna help you. So we were like, come on in.
Admirable.
But so she's met a guy. She's talking to him, and things are moving kind of quick. And I'm like, dude, you need to like pump your brakes, chill. It's only been a few months. And go figure. A couple weeks later, yeah, something might be going on. I don't know, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, well, what is it? And the way she described everything to me was, I don't know, but it's these small things that just occasionally happen that make me kind of like, huh? I don't. And she's like, I don't understand it. I don't know how to describe it. I was like, is your intuition kicking in that
Ooh.
the normal behaviors that you're seeing is being challenged by other small behaviors? And
Mm.
while one of those individual behaviors, right, one of those individual marbles doesn't mean anything by itself, but when you look at it in the totality of all of this person's behaviors and the interactions you've had with them over the past few months, it starts to make you question: is that a real marble or is that a fake marble? And it's bizarre how the universe works. That this is the Brene Brown statement you sent out to say, hey, I want to talk about this stuff in the pod, because I'm
Yeah.
just like, holy crap, I never thought about it like that, because that's how I function, right? And
Mhm.
being openly and overly transparent and tell people like, I'm gonna piss you off. I'm gonna say some words in this meeting that you don't like, and it's just that's just how I am. But I think over time, as you work with somebody, they understand like, this is what I'm getting. When I'm talking with MC, it's straight, no filter, no chaser. Like, you're getting what you're getting, and I don't know, like I'm sure I piss a lot of people off, but I don't care. Like, I don't want to not be who I am. Like, I'm just gonna be who I am, and I think that helps you build the trust over time, though.
Definitely. I would say you're consistent. I mean, if you're saying I'm going to piss people off and you're pissing people off, hey, you're doing what you said you're going to do.
You're
So
doing you.
But I tell them though, if I piss you off, tell me, and
yeah.
tell me why I pissed you off. Like, don't
Mhm.
attack me, because like the natural human inner intuition is to like defend when you get attacked. But
Right.
tell me, how did I piss you off? Did I
Right.
say something that offended you? Did I, X, Y, Z? But it's because I'm not gonna know, right? I mean, we learn from our mistakes more than we learn from anything else. So if I violated your trust, or if I've just straight crossed a line and upset you, let me know, because being from the sports world and being crass and all those terrible stereotypes that you hear about athletes and stuff like that, like,
Oops.
you say and you do things that'll piss people off, but I can't get better unless you tell me. So, and I think, circling back to the conversation about trust, I think for me at least, just in my behaviors, that's my moments of how I build trust with people, is just like, if I fuck up, tell me I fucked up. Like, you ain't got to tell me I'm doing great. I don't really care. But if you're not telling me that I'm fucking up, then how do I know?
Exactly. One thing I like to kind of add to that is, we keep on kind of talking about how emotional human beings are, and that we are emotional beings, and that is our first and foremost part of us, before logic. We are going to react emotionally to whatever situation that comes upon us. So, with those moments that happen, in the meetings, we have logical robot kind of things,
Yep. We got
but
the intercom voice going on.
right, I'm trying. And but in those moments between meetings or in those ad hoc conversations, you are human. So how you react to people and how they talk to you and their facial expressions, or your reactions in general, or your non-reactions in general, say so much more than anything else. I have also a personal story. So my sister and her husband, they've been together for a while now, and there's some drama with my parents. Yep, and there's been some a lot of times where the marbles have been dumped out with my parents from, with my sister's husband. And it keeps on and then he keeps on trying to earn those marbles back, but then they get dumped out again, then earn it back, then dumped out again, then earn it back, then dumped out again. And he apologizes, but they keep on getting dumped out again. And the thing is that you can apologize, you can try to do your best, but if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, that jar continues to crack and crack and crack, and maybe you'll get a hole in there. So marble will come in, but it'll just roll right back out, So you're like, okay, yeah, no, just a fleeting trust, you know?
Mhm.
Um, and how, I guess my question is, how do you deal with that? That's something if that jar is broken and there's a hole there, how does that person who has already initially broke it fix it? Do they use duct tape? You know what
Right, and
I
what is that duct tape, and
mean?
sometimes, like, when there's a hole in that jar and they're just testing you, they're just maybe they're just being spiteful, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, you could be a scrum master coming into, like, an unsalvageable situation. Like, you cannot salvage the trust in this team at all,
Mhm.
and I've heard stories of that similar nature too. Like, I think with in-laws in general, Caitlin, it's like, like,
Yeah.
I'm in the family. Like, you gotta deal with me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But like sometimes there's some levels of trust you can't salvage, and maybe it had something to do with you, maybe it didn't.
Right.
And that goes with teams, because I've come into teams and the trust was just shot. It was like it was no man's land, and there was nowhere for me to go because it was no man's land, and I just kind of made the most of it. And turns out it actually turned out really well, like after a year, and we were in a much better place than it started. And it was interesting because another former scrum master of that team told me, like, wow, I've never seen that developer smile. And I'm like, I don't think I had anything to do with it. I think they were just in a better environment because of leadership. I don't know. I said I immediately changed the subject. um, and sometimes it may not even be a team problem, maybe a personnel problem. I think that gets thrown around a lot in Agile too. It may not be a framework problem or a Scrum Master problem. It may just be a personnel problem with some deep rooted issues that may not be in our control. So we try to keep that in mind too. But there is definitely a lot of factors involved when it comes to trust. And the reason all of us are talking about trust today is because trust isn't a commodity. You can't put it in a box and just deliver it and just expect you have an Agile team. You can't, like, someone else can't come into the picture and be like, I expect you to establish trust with this team. Go. Otherwise, you suck as a scrum master. Like, really, that's an unreasonable expectation. Do you know people? Like, trust isn't a guarantee. Like, trust is a sense of hope that you're gonna like attain with someone one day.
I would disagree though. Like I think, like we're using the metaphor of a jar. Like in
Yeah.
a way, I feel like the jar always exists. Like you can't, it doesn't shatter, but it's the question like, do people want to start over and start refilling it? So I
Mm-hmm.
think that like every team can rebuild trust. I think as humans we're all adaptable like that. And we said a couple things today. Like I heard, you know, MC say the term like normal behaviors, and Caitlin said keep doing, and you said the word lifestyle. So I think it's a matter of kind of saying, okay, what is the new normal that we want for ourselves? Because in the team that I have right now, like even this week, they had a big reset moment, and even I had two teams I work with. They both had reset moments over the last couple of weeks or a couple months. But it's really just it's like a new understanding where we're going to say, all right, the past is the past, right? It's like that cliche. But like, what is that new normal that we're going to work with in order to maybe put one marble in the jar every day? That one little experience every day. So I feel like, I feel like I could inherit a team that's totally toxic, and where they all hate each other or they, hate their managers or whatever. But I think it's as Agilists, our role is to try to come up with maybe just some kind of agreement of what acceptable behaviors are so that trust can be rebuilt, day by day. So I wouldn't say it's totally impossible, but it's hard. It's like you're willing to kind of say, all right, let's take this empty jar. Let's all look at this empty jar, recognize it's there, and say, all right, we're all willing to put marbles in here. That's hard, and maybe there's nothing dropped in there for the first few weeks or so, but maybe somebody puts one in there eventually, and then kind of like early adopters. After the first person puts one in, someone else says, "Ooh, there can be a marble in that jar. Maybe let's try two, and then keep going. And then maybe you never know. Maybe trust is rebuilt."
See, but okay, so here's an interesting thought on that. Because I know, like, I've got one family member that I will never trust again, ever. Period. You know, would have to be in significantly dire straits before I would come in and help. And not to be spiteful, but like ruined trust in one of the worst ways possible. Just to be blunt, right, and transparent. And I tell you guys, that's how I am. So when you talk about that in that situation as a team, I feel like I don't know. I've said it a couple times in the last few months, and I try to think it through. Like, is that the hill you want to die on? Right? Am I focused on building trust here, or can I admit like if I can't get Tabby to trust John, can I at least create an environment where they can be professional enough to get the job done?
Maybe.
Because yeah, maybe because if I can't if I can't if because I can build the trust. You know what I mean? If I can build the trust up and you guys still don't get the work done, well, shit, it doesn't matter then, right? At the end of the day. But like if I can at least create an environment where it's like, you know what, Tabby, you and John don't like each other, so you need to kind of stay in this lane and in this box to get things done, and don't push these buttons, and same thing, vice versa. So while yes, I think trust in some regards can be rebuilt and re-earned, but I think more often than not, like so you've got your vase, right? We're using this vase metaphor, the whole pod. You've got your vase or vase, however fancy you are. I'll pinky up when you say vase. So you've got your vase. Um, it's someone has violated your trust. I feel like when it comes to putting marbles back in it, it's like the top of the vase has a net over it, and the marble's only gonna go in if it's turned and pushed in the right way. Because once you violated that trust, like there's now a filter, and while I say I'm gonna trust you and I'm gonna give you those opportunities, I'm still gonna put that barrier up because I'm expecting you to fuck my vase pinky up
Pinky up.
again.
Yes, I completely agree with you, MC. I agree with you too, John. Like that's such an optimistic view of you got to try to salvage the trust. You can't just give up from the gung ho because like you're just not set up for success. You got to try.
Agreed.
And as soon as you see that one marble, like the other marbles come so easily, like because you got that one marble, like Sean Connery from Camelot. I got that one marble with him. I'm looking forward to the other marbles. Okay, but like you got to try somehow, and when that happens, it's such a good feeling, guys. Like it's a relief that you like now you know that you have the ability to establish trust with someone because you've been trying, you've been like shooting darts into the darkness, and you don't know if it's gonna come back. You don't know if it's gonna land somewhere, and it's a huge win, and it's just gonna keep getting better.
Oh, I like how MC was bringing it up. It kind of reminded me of trying to find those similarities or a common goal. Like maybe not trying to, in quote, attack the trust, trying to build that trust, but find something else where you can refocus their emotions, redirect their feelings to something they both have something in common. Do you want this product to be successful? They both said yes. Then let's work together to achieve this common goal. You don't have to like each other, but let's make this the most successful product ever, and then at least for them, that's in their forefront. Okay, we like trust, we want trust, but if trust is broken and there is that net, or it's just hard to get those marbles in, let's figure out another way. Let's figure out another redirection. How can we think of this a different way? You don't have to build something that you're not ready to build just yet.
Yeah, like what MC was saying, like so suppose like there's a bunch of people, one person like was talking shit about another person, whatever, and that was like the heart of the problem. All right, so there's like a human trust. Hey, you know, I don't like you anymore because you're saying bad things about me, kind of situation. But maybe the way back in, so like use the metaphor of the net, right? Maybe the hole in the net is maybe okay, is that idea. Like, all right, let's start with a professional angle to this thing, saying, we still got to build this software, even though you two guys hate each other. But let's come at this, like using the braving model, like from like a reliability, accountability point of view. Let's just kind of reset there and start, in that space and see if it can get bigger than that. And, if we can succeed from a reliability, accountability thing, like a boundaries thing, let's kind of, working agreements. Let's bring up the working agreements, guys. Thou shall not talk shit, so come up with something like that, but I mean, just the fact you put it on paper makes it more real, right? But like just starting either from like a professional point of view or just making something more tangible, starting small can maybe be that hole in the net that people start noticing and then, creates more marbles.
Agreed. So we are wrapping for time. We only have a couple of minutes. I want to throw in one more question because this conversation has been rich and glorious, and I cannot wait to hear it later. So can someone have the ability to trust them and not have to like them? What do you think?
Yes.
MC, go.
Yeah. No, absolutely. 100%. I think my terrible, I don't know, terrible, I don't know the right freaking adjective for it. It's Friday. I'm tired.
Oh, okay.
So I think like my starting point with people generally is cool. I'm gonna trust you to a certain extent, and you personally and your actions can it's like a pendulum, right? You can swing that back to the non-trust side, or you can push it to like the utmost trust side where you're gonna learn like all my deepest darkest secrets. So I think I can trust you to an extent and still not like you. But there gets to a point where I dislike you enough to the point where I couldn't trust you at all. So yes, I do think you can trust someone without liking them.
Or even you wouldn't want to trust them because you don't like them.
That's
I mean, I totally agree when you have a certain level of trust when it comes to liking someone or not liking someone. If you have shown that you can do your job, but you're an asshole, at least I can trust you can do your job.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I had a team member in the past that was a complete asshole. But he knew his stuff. He knew what he needed to do. He took the reins and he went with it. But man, I did not like him.
I bet. And we can admit that too. Like we're not gonna like everybody. Like we're Scrum
No.
Masters, and we got this whole impression that like we're all roses and like daisies all the time. Flowers. I made a flower reference. That we like everybody, but we're human beings too. We're not gonna like you, but we're gonna help you grow, so you can trust us.
Right. So people are mean.
Yeah. People are assholes, man. Some people.
Like, so before I was doing product stuff, those who don't know, I was a journalist. I did business journalism for a few years. And like the things you see in like movies and shows about like journalists like being like these jaded people who see things so dark, it's so bizarre. I see the same thing in the agile world, because it's almost like the scrum master agilist agile coach position is like up on this pedestal,
Yep.
right, of positivity and happiness and psychological safety and
We
all
got the
these
daisies
things.
crown.
Exactly, like everything is sunshine and roses, and then like go hang out with like 5 scrum masters at like 6:30 on a Friday.
Oh yeah.
And hear what they really
That's where
have
the
to
real
say.
feelings come.
So I just wanted to share that. I thought that was funny. John, what do you have to add to this?
So can you trust somebody and not like them at the same time?
Yeah.
I think so. Like, I'm a self-proclaimed, introvert and whatever, and sometimes like that probably makes me come off as like aloof and stuff like that. And like even for me, like it's hard for me it takes a while for me to build trust with people, with teams and stuff like rapport. But on the flip side, like I always try to kind of do what I say and stuff like that. And I've worked with developers who, yeah, to Caitlin's point, they do a great job. They always do their thing, but they're just not fun to work with. So and so people can think that of me too. It's like like John's like he's kind of not totally around or whatever, but like I hope that people can still believe that I'll come through and I'm here with the right intentions and I'll come around eventually. So that's me kind of sounding vulnerable right there, but anyway, so that's, I think, yeah, you can not know somebody, you can not like somebody, but you can still trust them.
Awesome. A very good answer, John. I know you were getting vulnerable for a little bit. We like that part. So great episode, everyone. Thank you for joining John and Caitlin. This was a fantastic conversation. If not our big special, because this was an hour long. Thank you again, Caitlin
No problem.
and John.
Anytime. I was waiting for the John. And I was just like, oh, okay, I'm going to speak up. I got you, John. I got you.
I was on mute again. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure. And all you listeners out there, thanks for joining us today on our episode Trust SMH. Stay tuned for our next episode coming soon, Agile Disrupted.